Hello. I check my microphone. Cute. Hello. Ow. Hello. Wait, I have this. Slay. Hello. It's a great day to be gay, so I'm told. I wouldn't know. Yo! Here we are. Welcome to the first episode, the first edition of the Onedown. What's the Onedown? That's a great question. I'm still figuring that out. We're still working on that. It's basically going to be a segment we do every Saturday where I, Carry the One, give you a rundown of what's going on in the world and the things that I think you need to know. What does that mean moving forward? I have no freaking clue. Today, it means we're going to talk a lot about content creator stuff, lots of streamer news to go over. We're always going to have some sort of element of like what's happening in the world of queer folks, queer shit, as I call it. Current events, politics, you name it. We've talked about this before. I want to start doing a little bit more just chatting content. And it sounds like, and we're going to get into this, so no spoilers, but it sounds like it might be the perfect time for me to start doing that because video games might be a little bit trickier to stream in the near future. So we're going to talk about that. I've got so many comments. I have a TikTok that I posted yesterday. No, the day before yesterday, I think. That's been like just racking up. It's up to like 40,000 views or something. And it's not even, I'm not even in it. It's one of those like CapCut template things. And there are so many comments on there that I could turn into more TikToks. And it kind of becomes like a self-sustaining situation. Tech, thank you for the 1,000 bits. All right. I see you. Are bits still a good deal? I feel like they've changed bits a few times. I never know what to like encourage folks to do if they want to support on Twitch, because it feels like everything is such like a racket. Like their Twitch takes so much of everything, but I do think bits are still a decent deal for folks. So thank you so much. I appreciate that. Yeah, the Giga Chat, nobody would do that. First off, there are 6 of you. I will read all of your messages. You don't need to pay $5, $10, whatever it is, to highlight a message if you want to say something. Just say it. Shall we get into the meat and potatoes here? I've done some research. I hope you all know I'm taking this very seriously. I think just chatting, first off, is a very underestimated type of content. I think there are a lot of folks sleeping on it. And it's something I want to get better at. I want to get better at being able to kind of create this more structured type of content. So I've done a lot of work. Can I show you? Let me show you. I created a Notion template to outline this entire episode. This is everything here. Here it is. The entire outline for the entire episode today. We also have a lot to talk about. There's a lot happening right now. So organize, at least this time. Catch me next week not having a single fucking clue, and I'm just gonna hop on and wing it. But at least for today, yeah, I wanted a really like organized approach. So we're gonna talk about SUBtember. We're gonna talk about the Streamy Awards, which were kind of a flop for me. We're gonna talk about this SAG-AFTRA strike. Have y'all heard about that yet? Juicy mama. And a lot of us are going to be real screwed if this goes through the way that it looks like it's going to go through, because it's going to cut out a lot of the games that most of us play. It's a good thing that I also stream like indie horror games, because that might be all I have left after this strike goes through, if it goes through. We're going to talk about some queer headlines. So news from Texas, the Texas drag ban has been stopped by a federal judge, at least temporarily. We'll talk about that. We're going to talk about Uganda. The first 2 folks have been arrested and will be charged with the death penalty in Uganda under their new anti-LGBTQ law. We're going to talk sports today. We're going to talk sports today, but only because we're talking about queer people in sports. Some great updates from some very, very good queer athletes. And then, we've got 2 things to wrap up. The first record deal offered to a digital character has been signed. So this person is like totally fake. She's made up. She does not actually exist. She was created digitally. Now she's got a record deal and she's got a song. We are going to listen to it. It's a music video too. We're going to watch the music video and hope that I don't get DMCA'd by Nunuri. We're going to hope that my first DMCA strike does not come from this digital artist who's also like a signed model and has done some collabs with like Kim Kardashian and Skims. So what's your excuse? If this cartoon can do it, then why can't you? And then we're going to finish off with a little segment I call the Goon of the Week. So it's going to be someone who's just a total shithead who deserves a little bit of shame before we close out the episode. Look at that. That was an outline. The Goon of the Week. Spoiler alert, it is not Ron DeSantis, although it very well could have been. It absolutely could have been. Now that's the one down. That's what the show's going to evolve into. I'm just going to secretly invite two different creators who have beef with each other onto the show and surprise them by making them confront each other while we all watch. Creator clash ain't shit. I'd love that. All right, let's get into the one down, shall we? The things you need to know. Let's start with SUBtember. Usually I don't pull Twitter up on stream because some of you are nasty and I'm not trying to get banned. However, it's SUBtember, baby. Oh, Prone got it. Of course you did. Of course you did. It's SUBtember. So here's the deal. Let's talk about it. SUBtember used to be so fierce. Show of hands in chat if you remember when SUBtember used to be, it was like, was it 50% off? Or it was at least 25. I think when I first started streaming, SUBtember was 50% off subs. Any sub. So it was first time sub. It was gifted subs. It was tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. It was extended. So if you wanted to do like a 3-month sub, a 6, like any subscriptions were like half off, and it didn't change how much the creator received. So we still got our full cut. So it was very good, and people would rake, and you would see everybody and their mom was doing a subathon during SUBtember because it was such a good time, both for the creators and for the folks who were supporting and buying the subs. And now that she's really dropped off. So let's talk about it. Let me pull up the article. There's a help article on the Twitch website that I think is maybe best for explaining this because it's super fucking complicated, unnecessarily so. We do have an ad break coming up soon, so sorry if you're not a subscriber and you're watching. It's watered down a lot, and I'm assuming it all comes down to the money, but I feel like it must have been, I don't know, what do I know? So this year, the kind of big sell or the primary like selling point for SUBtember is multi-month subscriptions. So 25% off 1 month or 3 month subscriptions. That would be new subscriptions, or if you're a current subscriber and you're upgrading your subscription. So I know some of you resubscribed today at tier 1. If you were to upgrade to a tier 2 or tier 3, you would be able to take advantage of these discounts as well. Okay. And then 30% if you go up to a 6-month subscription. Plus business with Twitch Turbo, help Amazon without helping any content creators. I don't know. I don't use Turbo. I don't have a problem watching ads. Maybe this is a hot take. I don't mind watching ads, especially when I know that some of that, not enough of it, but some of that revenue goes to the creator. I know that it's a big sticking point for a lot of folks. There are a lot of people who, like, if you run ads or if you run too many ads, they will leave you. I don't have that. I don't mind like just getting up and going to the bathroom or getting a drink or something and then coming back, and usually the ads are done. Like it's not a deal breaker for me. So I don't understand why it's such a deal breaker for some folks, but here we are. But Turbo does keep you from seeing ads, allegedly. Although I know that there are some folks who've said like, oh, I still get ads even though I'm a subscriber or I'm a Twitch Turbo user. So I don't know. It's all bullshit. But isn't Turbo, I think Turbo's getting more expensive, if I remember correctly. Um, and then the best part of September, if there is a best part, is the last week of September, starting from September 26th until October 1st. All gifted subs are 25% off, which is not nothing. Again, it used to be 50, and that was so fierce. I remember let's have a moment of honesty, clarity. I'm currently sitting at 28 subscribers right now. All of them tier 1, so I have 28 subscriber points. I think at my peak, it was during a September, and I was closing in on almost 300 subscribers. Not necessarily because I ever had anywhere near 300 viewers, but because I had so many people who during things like SUBtember were gifting so many subs, because you could gift twice as many. If you were going to spend $20 gifting subs, you would get twice as many subs out of that during September. And it was something people got so excited about. Creators got excited about it. Viewers got excited about it. I'm sure Twitch got excited about it. And people would build whole like activations and events and, like I said, subathons around September. And now it's just like another marketing email that we get every September. And it's just, I don't know. I hate it. I'm not going to tell people not to subscribe. And if you want to take advantage of, again, those 3-month, 6-month subscriptions in particular are really pretty good deal if you're in a position to do that. But I'm not going to sit here and push people to subscribe if I'm still not getting a big chunk of that money, when there are other alternatives that are much better and a much more favorable cut for creators. I just have such a hard time encouraging that. So that's no shade to anybody. I know there are some folks who are planning subathons this month. I think there are a lot of folks, especially the last week of the month, who are looking to do stuff. And please feel free to support them if that's what they're asking of you and you're able to. But I don't know. I am going to do probably a tipathon this month, just because things are getting tighter financially, and I've wanted to do one for a while and just haven't made it a priority. So we are probably going to do something, probably not that last week of September, and probably not something where it's going to emphasize subscribers. But again, if you're someone who, like, you're committed to being subscribed to this creator long term, and you're interested in upgrading your tier 1 to a tier 2 or tier 3, or it's a new subscription and you want to go ahead and do 3 or 6 months in advance, that is a pretty good deal. It does stack up. It also does change depending on country. So like a lot of the other kind of promotions that Twitch does, it is very specific to the country that you're in. So that 25% doesn't necessarily translate the same in other currency, because it does take different fees and percentages. So I think there's a table in this article too that helps break that down, actually. Yeah. So for Germany, the UK, Brazil, Mexico, Chile, Korea, Japan, and Australia, it does give you kind of a breakdown here, giving you what the regular price would be and then what the price is based on the 6-month, 3-month, or 1 month with the discount. So it's there, but again, the numbers aren't necessarily the same because, again, the subs aren't the same price, the discount's not going to be the same. So it only applies to the first term, so you don't lock in that price. That's the same as it has always been. And it's only through the web. So I know we have a lot of folks who are mobile watchers. You do not have access to these discounts if you are subscribing on mobile. In fact, you're probably paying more because the mobile companies, Apple and Google, etc., typically add a fee onto that as well. So make sure you're doing it through twitch.tv. You can do it through the mobile browser on your phone. Just don't do it through the Twitch app. And again, existing subs aren't included unless you're upgrading to either a multi-month of your current tier or upgrading to a higher tier. So if you are a tier 1 subscriber and you want to subscribe for the next 3 or 6 months, I do believe you'll have access to those discounts too. Or if you want to go up to a tier 2, tier 3. And then I think there was something, it's like some random, the loot cave. So if you're interested in Twitch merch and you live in, I think it's the US, Canada, and Germany, if I remember. The US, UK, and not even Canada. So sorry, Canada. 20% off merch at the Twitch Loot Cave. You know, if you want to walk around representing this platform that does so much for its creators, you can get a hoodie for $60 instead of $80. So there we are. That's September. I'm so disappointed. Like I said, I'm sure there are people who are still going to try to take advantage. I think this is especially a good opportunity for if you're a Twitch partner who is within striking distance of the Twitch Partner Plus thing that they just rolled out. where if you meet certain criteria, you can basically make more money and unlock. I think it's a better split is what it comes down to on the subs. And some folks are trying to use this to like launch themselves into that meeting those criteria. That's great. But I don't think for most folks it really makes the most sense. I would rather see folks subscribe on platforms like My Fourth Wall, which I think plug enough. I get to keep, I think it's 90% of what you spend there. So you can spend $5 here on Twitch and gift a sub, and I'll get $2.50 of that. Or you can go over to Fourth Wall, spend that same $5, and I get to keep, it's like $4.25. So we're seeing more and more, I think, smaller creators who don't have huge platforms and huge communities, who are realizing that if you find other ways to monetize your community and give them opportunities to support you that have a more favorable split, you can make just as much as you were on Twitch, if not more, off of less input from your community, less money that they have to spend, and more of it that you get to keep. Or spend $10, you can get a discount on the merch. It's also been 1 year since we launched the graffiti merch. Facebook reminded me of that today. Twitch Partner Plus, I know. It was basically, I think it's meant to be the kind of their response to all these folks who've been asking for like a 70-30 split. I'm not up on it because I'm not a partner and I'm not likely to make partner anytime soon, but I think the way it works is they assign points to each type of sub. It only counts paid subs, so it does not count gifted subs. It only counts unique subs that folks are paying for themselves. And so like tier 1 is 1 point. I think a tier 2 is 2 or 3 points. Tier 3 is 6 points. And you have to get, I think it's 300 points or 325 points for 3 months in a row to unlock this Partner Plus for, I believe, a year, which gives you an increased sub split for that time period. Only up to, I think it was $100,000 though. If you make more than $100,000, it cuts it back down, I think. Because I remember there being like a weird cap on it. But again, don't quote me on any of that. I'm not a partner and I'm not trying to be. So that didn't really apply to me. But yeah, it's a lot. When really Twitch could just give us all a better split. And then maybe we wouldn't all be looking for other platforms as adamantly as some of us are. It's a shame that longevity means nothing to Twitch. Why wouldn't someone like yourself that has been streaming for over 3 years not be eligible for partner? Well, that's the thing too. Well, first off, I appreciate that. Thank you. I'm not even sure I would want to be a partner anymore at this point, to be honest. But they're pretty inconsistent with how they apply partner criteria as well. I know at least one person. I'm not going to name them. We do not associate with them because they've also played the Hogwarts game. They were nowhere near 75 average viewers, and that's not me trying to shade them. It's just a fact. They were probably closer to, I think, 15 or 20 maybe, if I had to guess. But they had been featured in a couple of like Twitch activations, marketing campaigns. And then suddenly they got partner. When there are other people who were also featured in several of these marketing campaigns who had similarly weren't maybe at the 75 average viewers, but they were, I think, closer than this other person was. And they were denied almost immediately. And this person only applied once. The first time they applied, they got accepted. I could probably... let me see if I can... I'm not going to pull it up on my computer because I don't want to start nothing. But are they streaming? No. I think the last time I happened to see them on... They sometimes play Overwatch, so sometimes I see them when I go to find someone to raid. And I think the last time I saw them on the little like browse section, they had, I think, 10 viewers. So it's just bizarre to me that it feels like there's no clear application of the criteria. There are folks who hit all the criteria, and then Twitch will come back and say, "Oh, we want to see you continue to grow. We want to see if you can maintain or sustain this growth, rather than you've hit all of these marks, you're in." It just doesn't make sense at all, and it can be discouraging. I mean, look at how many people go through like months-long partner pushes, and they think they've hit the criteria, they hit the application, just to turn around and get denied. I've seen people, I don't know a lot of folks personally, but I know there are folks who've applied 6, 7, 8 times and keep getting rejected, even though they continue to meet the criteria. And I don't understand why Twitch is so gatekeepy about it. What is it that harms Twitch by letting more people into the partner program? I would think that only increases their loyalty to Twitch. That only further kind of reinforces the likelihood that they will stay on Twitch and continue to create content for you and continue to convince folks to spend money on your platform. I feel like by being so rigid with these criteria, you're pushing people away unnecessarily. I don't understand what the purpose is. It's not like it used to be where there were few enough partners that like each partner had their own Twitch staff member, like their account manager who was their go-to person at Twitch. I understand we've grown and there's so many partners now that that's not happening anymore. Or if they've got like a person who they're assigned to, they never get to talk to that person. So it's not even like there are that many perks to being a partner anymore. There's no different subsplit. They did away with the transcoding. So it used to be the partners were the ones who were guaranteed to have all the different quality options for their streams. Now that's something most of us have. They get the badge. They don't even get a discount at TwitchCon anymore. They got to pay full price for their pass at TwitchCon. I don't think there's a partner lounge anymore. There used to be a separate like partner lounge where the partners could all go hang out. So what is it exactly that they get? They get a badge. Granted, that badge I do think carries weight with like sponsors and working with brands, but it doesn't necessarily change anything in terms of how Twitch treats them or how they move with Twitch. So why are we trying so hard to keep people out of the partner program? I don't get it. I don't get it. Not that. So happy SUBtember, everyone. I guess. Happy SUBtember. Like I said, find other ways to support creators. I think most of us, well, I won't say most of us, most of the creators I know, most of the creators I follow have found other platforms that they like, that they create content on. Sometimes you get bonus extra stuff, like with my Fourth Wall, I post my YouTube videos there earlier than everyone else gets them, where they make more money too. I've made more money on Fourth Wall than Twitch the last 2 or 3 months. Again, I'm not getting as many subs, and that's fine. And I'm able to make more money on Fourth Wall with people spending less. And it just seems like that's such a win-win for everybody but Twitch. So if you want to stick it to Twitch, find something like Fourth Wall or Patreon, or there are a bunch of other kind of smaller platforms that are popping up. LiveSpace is another alternative, although I think there's still some work to be done there. But yeah. Happy SUBtember. Spend your money wisely. I'm totally in favor of folks if you want to pay for or buy your own subscription, because you benefit from that. No ads. You get emotes. You get the little badge. Like, there are perks to spending. Queen Pib explains this perfectly, and she's the one who really, and she didn't encourage me, but watching her really inspired me to do the same when she kind of moved away from a sub model and started pushing folks more to tip and things like that. It makes sense to go ahead and subscribe yourself because you get a benefit for that. You're spending money and you're getting something for that money. But if you gift a sub, you're not necessarily benefiting. Sure, the person you gift the sub to might benefit, like Jezebel gifting that sub. Yeah, the person who receives the sub is going to benefit if there's someone in your community who actually is here. I can't tell you how many times I've gotten gifted a sub by someone I've never even watched, or that I don't follow, and certainly that I don't watch frequently. So I'm not really benefiting from not seeing their ads or getting their emotes. Those aren't things that are necessarily actually benefiting me. Whereas if you have $50 and you want to spend 5 of it on a sub for yourself, Wheels on the Bussy, hello, welcome in, and then spend the other 45 on merch or gifting Fourth Wall memberships, I'm going to get to keep close to like 40 of that $45 that you spend, as opposed to if you spent them all on Twitch subs, I'm only getting to keep $25 of that. You're spending the same amount of money, and if your goal is to support the creator, it seems like it's a no-brainer. But again, You spend your money how you see fit. Happy SUBtember, one and all. Happy SUBtember. So let's move on. Let's talk about the Streamy Awards. Who here has even heard of the Streamy Awards? Here's the other thing, and I think this is a great kind of segue into talking about the dichotomy of the creator industry, in that there is like what the world sees as the creator space industry, and then there's what actually exists. And the Streamy Awards, I think, is a great example of people not really understanding how the creator world actually works. Because I haven't even heard of most of the people who were nominated. Let's pull up the list. I've got the list of spoilers. I've got the list of winners here if you're worried about that. Look at that cute stinger transition. I'm very proud of that. So the Streamy Awards, this was the 13th annual edition of them. They're for content creators, mostly like YouTubers, and this year TikTokers. The last couple years, TikTokers have sort of moved into. So most of these folks are people who create content on like YouTube, TikTok, etc. There are categories for streamers as well. But the vast majority of the content and the people who were featured on this show are people who are either on YouTube or TikTok. They might also stream as well, but this is very much like a YouTuber-centric thing. Mr. Beast won Creator of the Year. I think he's won it like 4 times. Great. Congratulations, Mr. Beast. I don't know why people like Mr. Beast so much. Maybe that's a hot take. He's just a rich guy spending a bunch of money. And I guess that's worth watching. So be it. So be it. Your screen is black? I don't know. Well, I don't know why. You can't see me? So sorry. I don't know why. That's not intentional. That's so weird. Find it so irritating to watch him. I don't think I've even actually made it through an entire Mr. Beast video before. I watched the one with the red circle, where he had a bunch of people and was like, stay in the circle, whoever's here the longest wins. It's fine. I mean, I get that the appeal is like, you could win all this money if you made it onto a Mr. Beast video. But it's like, I also am a little jaded, I think, with just larger creators in general who do generally so much less of their own work. So like Mr. Beast is not filming his own videos. He's not editing his own videos. He's not posting anything himself. He's not doing any of the research himself. It's at the point where like he just kind of shows up, and he might help with like the idea generation and iteration and branding and direction, but he's got a whole team of people. He's fine. I'm more in awe of the creators who are out here doing all of this on their own. That's who I would like to see uplifted in these awards. Spoiler alert, that's not who gets uplifted in these awards. Mr. Beast, Vosh, yeah. You know who else is actually really disappointing too? I've been watching them a lot lately, and there are far worse, but there are some things that these folks get away with that I don't understand why nobody's calling them on it. Is the H3 podcast with Ethan Klein. Certainly much more tolerable than some of the more right-wing folks out there. But they say a lot of really problematic shit. I was watching, it was a live stream that they had posted, and they were talking about someone. I can't remember who it was. Oh, they were talking about a character in the new One Piece live action show. And they weren't showing the show on their screen because they didn't want to get copyright struck. But he was talking about this character, and they were talking about the way this character like processes things, and where the direction they were trying to head was, I think they were trying to say that they think this character might be autistic. But then his sound guy was like, oh, well, we probably shouldn't say, like, don't say that. Don't say what you want to say. He like sent a message and was like, can I say this? And I'm sure the message was, I want to make a joke about this guy having some sort of mental health, some sort of like disorder. But the sound guy was like, oh, I think I've got a sound clip that'll get the message across without us having to say it. And he started playing that song from the Black Eyed Peas that, when it came out, used the R slur. but then got switched and they changed it so they said let's get it started. But he didn't play that part. He just said that played the let's get it, and of course everybody knew. And so it was an implied R slur there, and everybody thought it was so. They all laughed. They all thought it was so funny. And I'm noticing as I watch more and more of these creators, like stuff like that just gets ignored. Is that the bar? All these folks are fine because the alternative is like an Andrew Tate or that Fresh and Fit podcast. Is that really where we're at? And the H3 podcast, like Ethan is generally considered to be someone who's like very good about being like progressive and inclusive. Like he does his best with pronouns and things. But some of the jokes and things that they make indicate to me that there's more there than maybe we're seeing. So I love some of the political streams, but some are just so vile, but get away with it because they bring it. Yeah. And Vosh does the same thing. I've heard Vosh multiple times use the R slur. I believe he even defends it and says that it's not a slur. So it's like, why are these the people that are getting platformed? How are these the people that everybody watches? Which is why I always try to help when I see folks like struggling with viewership and numbers and not feeling like they're doing enough as a creator. It's like, understand that isn't necessary. I mean, are there things you could maybe do better and things you could like change and improve? Probably. And there's a huge element of like, this is what people like to watch. People like controversy. People like edgy people who say and do things that are maybe or maybe not okay. That's what people watch. And I have always said, like, if those are the things I would have to do in order to like become a famous content creator or make a ton of money on Twitch or YouTube or TikTok or whatever, then I'm fine with being a small creator because I'm not comfortable sacrificing like my morals, my values, in the name of getting like clicks or views or all that. So I don't know, it's gross. But anyway, the streamies, they happened. Mr. Beast won. I didn't know most of the winners. I'm not even gonna lie. Exactly, Jezebel. Exactly. It's so gross. I did know some of them. So Kai Cenat was Streamer of the Year. He's the person who holds the record for the most subs on Twitch at one time. He's also the one who I guess it was like a month ago now, he got arrested in New York because he allegedly incited a mob because he told his stream that he was going to go to this square in the city somewhere and that they were going to ask random people trivia questions, and if they got it right, they were going to get like a PS5. And so naturally, he's a giant creator. There are tons of people who see what he says and hear what he says. So of course, all these people showed up. They were like smashing cars and stuff. So that's our Streamer of the Year. That's our Streamer of the Year. He beat out folks like iShowSpeed, who was recently in the news because he accidentally flashed his genitalia on stream. He was like celebrating. He got a kill or something on the game he was playing, and it just like whoop. And XQC, who's like notoriously a shitty person, he just signed a giant contract with Kick, who every time I've seen an XQC like clip or anything, it's literally just him reacting to other people's content. And by reacting, I just mean he literally says like, oh, that's weird. Oh, wow. Oh, dude. Like he doesn't actually add anything or transform the content at all. He just literally kind of sits there and watches it. And then he just kind of rips their thumbnail and puts his face on it. And he uses like the exact same titles. So he's a shitty person. So Kai won, but it was a field full of like less than ideal talent, I would say. Hi Ferg, welcome in. I don't know, Razor. I didn't watch. I haven't seen it. And I have no interest in seeing it. International, I've heard of eBay. He also tends to set a lot of records. I think he's got the record for most viewers at one time. If you've ever watched, I don't know if you would have. He's a Spanish streamer. He streams in Spanish. He does these very like produced, like the ones I've seen were like sporting events. So like he did like a boxing event, but it was like you were watching a professional boxing event. And then he like commentates over it. So he's great. I don't really know any of the other ones. I think KB Lame is you might have seen him on TikTok. He's the guy who, I think he's in Fortnite now. I think he's in Fortnite now too. He would do like stitches where he would start the video and then when he would come on camera and just be like, you would probably know him if you saw him. Chris Olsen, one short form. He's the like quirky gay that hangs out with Meghan Trainor. He got famous for being with another like quirky gay, and then they broke up, and everybody on TikTok started crying because it felt like their like best friends were breaking up. He walks around in the Balenciaga croc heels. Great. I think Elise Meyer should have won. I think she's hysterical. But that's my personal opinion. Breakout creator was Dylan Mulvaney. Of course, famous for her Days of Being a Girl series. She's up to like 500 something days of being a girl now. Congratulations. So she won Breakout Creator. Again, lots of TikTokers in this field. Drew Afwalo, famous for being ruthless in roasting inadequate men. Alex Earl, I don't know anything about her other than I've only ever heard that her house is messy. And I think the only clip I've ever seen was her finding a cockroach in her house. So I think she's like famous for being kind of gross and messy. An add-on was blocking my stream. Yikes. What you blocking my stream for? Who did it? Who did it? I don't know any of the people who are in the breakout streamer category. So sorry. Mr. Beast and The Rock won for a collaboration. As far as I can tell, that collaboration was literally just Mr. Beast and The Rock playing rock, paper, scissors. I guess that's what passes for content these days. Sure. Creative for social. This one was actually a really good one. I didn't watch the whole streamies, but I did see this acceptance speech for this one. Invisible People, I had never heard of it before. It's a channel that features the stories of homeless folks. And it does it in a way that really counters what plays really well on YouTube or TikTok. We've seen a lot of like clips and stuff where folks like go give food to a homeless person or offer to buy a homeless person whatever they want from Walmart, and they turn it into content, and it's kind of gross and cringy because you have to wonder whether or not like that person wanted to be filmed and put on display for the whole world like this, or felt like they couldn't say no because they need the food or the clothes or the shoes or whatever. So Invisible People actually is a nonprofit too that actually works to help provide the real things that the homeless folks need, and helps them tell their stories in a way that they're in charge and they kind of get to decide how they're portrayed. So if you haven't had a chance to check out Invisible People, that's actually a really, really good cause. And I'm really grateful to the streamies that I was able to hear about them through the show. Other than that, though, the show was pretty shitty. It was pretty awkward. A lot of the bits and things that they tried to do just kind of fell flat. They had these folks do like the Mr. Beast red circle thing, but on a smaller scale. They had like 4 of them. And so they were all holding onto a streamy statue the entire show. And then they made them play like Twister and still hold on to the statue. And this is like people who are dressed up. So the one who won, her name was Savannah Moss, was in literally like a evening gown on the floor, holding this statue with 3 other people that she may or may not know, playing fucking Twister. And the winner got to keep, they got like a special red chrome streamy statue. So anyway, it was a weird show. It was not very well done. But again, this is the creator industry for you. Best creator product is that drink that Logan Paul came out with. I haven't tried it. Ryan Trahan, Quackity won Just Chatting. I know Hassan was like planning on winning that. I Show Speed won Variety Streamer. Okay. They had a VTuber category, which I thought was cool. I have also not heard of any of these folks, but it was cool to see a VTuber category. I know there's a lot of like judgment thrown toward VTubers, so it was cool to see them recognized with their own category. The Sound of the Year, which was like best like TikTok Sound of the Year, Meghan Trainor. I disagree. I don't think that was the best one, but it's okay. They didn't ask me. Podcast, scripted series. I haven't seen any of these. I do watch Sam and Colby. I will say that. So the unscripted series. I don't know if you all have ever watched Sam and Colby. They're a pair of YouTubers who like explore haunted places together, and they've got some pretty good like production quality. It's one of those things that I put on like when I'm going to bed, and I'm not usually like actively watching, but they're also pretty long videos, so it's something I can put on and not have to worry about like finding something else anytime soon. But it's pretty good. They also just recently partnered with Fuck Cancer. Colby, I think, just had a cancer scare. I think he's cancer free now. So they partnered with Fuck Cancer and raised a shitload of money with. They made some merch with Fuck Cancer and raised a ton of money for the organization. So that was really cool too. Yeah, the gaming awards were moved. Yeah, the award show thing. It's I understand the purpose, and I think it's a good concept. But I just think that the creator space is just so broad, and there's no centralized, like there's no one person who knows all of the creators, even within a particular niche. Like even if you tried to create, I know a couple years ago there was someone, and I'm not going to name names, who was going around asking folks how we felt about doing like a Twitch or like a digital drag award show, like honoring some of the best and brightest in like digital drag content creators. And I remember at the time, like the conversation was like, there's no one person who knows all of the people who are doing drag, even just on Twitch, let alone any of these other platforms that folks might be doing drag on. I remember watching Avidius when she was streaming on Growler, and there's a drag queen on Growler who's like one of their biggest streamers. I had literally never heard of her. She doesn't stream anywhere else. She doesn't make content anywhere else. It's literally just Growler. But she's like the biggest streamer on that particular platform. And so that's the issue, is that even if you try to create something super, super niche down, something like digital drag, for example, nobody knows all of the people creating in that space. So you're never going to have a truly representative field for something like that. And then who gets to decide what good is? When it comes to content, like, I don't like Mr. Beast's content, but obviously there are enough people who do that he's doing very well for himself. So the fact that I don't like it, does that make it not good content? What constitutes good? Is it simply based on reach? Do we just go based on who's got the most views, the most subscribers, the most brand deals? So it's there's so many variables and moving targets that there's no way for us to like truly create a truly objective format for that. Most people try to do something with voting, and then that just turns into a popularity thing, and whoever has the biggest community or the biggest social media platform ends up winning, because of course they're going to share it and say vote for me, and more people are going to see that and vote for them. So it's hard to find a way to do that in a way that's objective and gives, like, who's got the authority? Who's the one who gets to say, like, I'm the person who decides what good drag is or what good content is? Who gets to decide that? Not me, not you. So anyway, then we get into some of the more kind of like niche, so like animated series, Beauty, Michaela Noguera one. She cried, which I thought was a little strange. And she like poked fun at herself for doing it. She got up there and started sobbing uncontrollably. She said that she's like been going through some stuff and like doubting herself as a creator, and that this was really validating for her. So that's great. I don't know that I would necessarily cry if I want to stream me. It doesn't feel like it doesn't feel like the sort of thing that would like validate or legitimize all of the work that I put in. But I'm not these people. So maybe it would, who knows? Someone clip that and cut to me 10 years from now winning a streamy and sobbing my eyes out. And we'll cut those together. I think Nikki Tutorial should have won though. I think Nikki is easily the best beauty creator. She's got the longevity. She is both of them, but I think more so when Nikki tries a product, it sells out instantly. People want to know what she's wearing. And I just think when it comes to influence, I think Nikki deserved it, but they're both great. I don't know any of these comedy people. The only commentary person I know was D'Angelo Wallace. I think he does really great content. I could listen to his voice all day long. I would like D'Angelo Wallace to narrate my life, but he didn't win, so sorry. Don't know any of these competitive gamers. I think Scump plays Call of Duty, if I remember. I feel like I recognize this one's name. Oh, is he streaming? Oh. Oh, he's streaming. Yep. Whoops. As you were. I don't really know the dancers. Fashion, don't really care. I do the food one. First off, this Nick guy, very attractive. But I think Alexis Nicole should have won. Alexis is sometimes better known as the Black Forager. I think she's so funny. I love her. So I think she really deserved it. But again, nobody asked me. This was an interesting one. The gamer category I thought was really interesting. I watched this section too. Not necessarily because of the people. It's fine. I think Markiplier should have won. I think Markiplier is really funny. Probably problematic, but I think really funny. But what I will say is that when they played a little montage of clips for each of these people. Literally 99% of their clips were Minecraft. So these were the gamers, but most of the content they featured from these gamers was Minecraft, which I know Minecraft does really, really well, especially on YouTube. But it was, I think, very interesting take on what content people actually like or consider to be good content on apparently YouTube. So Dream won. Dream's the guy who wears the mask. He was like famous this year because he took his mask off and people were like, oh. And they kind of made fun of him because he wasn't as hot as I think some people thought he would be. He also makes music. So like yesterday, I think he had his best day on Spotify ever. He had like 1 million people stream his music for some reason. All right. So congratulations to Dream, the best gamer in the world. I don't know any of the health and wellness people. That tracks. Kids and family, couldn't be me. Learning and education, couldn't be me. Lifestyle, the only one that I really know, I know Charlie D'Amelio because she's like, was the first famous person to come from TikTok. And then I know Bretman Rock is really famous and popular because he has chickens and he's kind of sassy. I don't know any of these other people. Hassan did win the news one, which I guess makes sense. I'm vaguely familiar with Gay News, Brian Tyler Cohen, and Philip DeFranco, but I feel like when you think of like particularly live streamers who do news content, I think Hassan's the first one that comes to mind for a lot of folks. So that kind of makes sense. Science, no. Sports, no. Technology, I'm not familiar with any of these people. I've heard of Linus Tech Tips, but only because he got in trouble in the last couple weeks. I don't remember why, but he like stopped posting because people were roasting him. I think he was he copying other people's work or something? I can't remember. Cinematography, nope. Editing, and so then it gets into like brand engagements and like the best brand partnerships of the year. The best brand was Barbie. So again, it's like very like kind of nebulous when it comes to what actually are the criteria here, but it is what it is. So like Phil Franco, he speaks fast enough for me to not get bored listening to the news. I think Jared likes him too. I don't really know him that well. I'm not that familiar. He pops up on my Instagram a lot, but I think it's because he's been doing a lot of he's been working out a lot lately, and so he's been posting a lot more thirst traps, and my Instagram seems to think, for some reason, I don't know why, that I have a particular interest in topless men. So he pops up on my Instagram, like, explore thing every once in a while, but that's the extent of it. I never heard of Hassan until I watched another streamer who has the hots for him. He, so I don't really watch Hassan a lot. I think I follow him on Instagram and Twitch or Twitter though. And I have seen him more frequently lately because he collaborates a lot with Austin Show, who I also didn't know for a hot minute, but he was on a panel at Dream Queens Con. And so I followed Austin after watching his panel at Stream Queens Con. Austin is an openly gay creator. He's also very attractive. He and Hassan flirt all the time, and it's like a weird... That's like the whole basis for their relationship and the content they create. That's my only real thing with Hassan, is that Hassan's very, I wouldn't say queer-baity, because he's very open about the fact that he's not queer. But he unapologetically like weaponizes his appeal to queer folks. And so like he and Austin talk all the time about hooking up, and it's like a weird thing, but I don't really know where I was going with that. Anyway, brand of the year was Barbie. She beat out Old Spice and Chipotle. The branded series. So again, this is all like sponsored content and branded stuff. Thanks. You're welcome. That's what I'm here for. It's the one down. Um, so that was the streamies. It's whatever. Like I said, I'm not like it was fine. I think it's weird to even have them. I'm not sure who organizes it or who benefits from it. It feels like it's a YouTube kind of exclusive thing, or at least that's where it's rooted. But one more reason not to look into it. He's going on tour. Austin is going on this like tour for I guess he has some show he does like Name Your Price or something like that, and he's taking it to all these different venues where people can go and watch it live. So he doesn't just do the kind of like thirst type content, but that is very clearly what a lot of people are there for. And if it works, hey, if I could get away with just posting thirst traps, if I could get away with just sitting here and playing Fortnite with no shirt on, and people would just throw money at me, I would do that too. I know that we talk a lot in the like space about people who like utilize their sex appeal or their bodies to gain viewers or gain subs and etc. I don't have a problem with that. If you got it, work it. If people will give you money for just looking nice, great. I can't relate. But if that's your journey, I'm not going to stop you. I'm not going to stop you. Don't follow or watch any shirtless streamer. I don't think I do either, but or not many that do that exclusively. There are some like DBD creators, some of the like cis gay men who stream Dead by Daylight. I don't think it's always necessarily just the Dead by Daylight people are watching them for. But again, if it works and you're not breaking any of the rules, whatever. I think maybe if I do follow any of them, it's because I went through a spree a couple months ago when I first started my personal trainer course, where I sought out and followed a bunch of fitness creators, and a lot of them will work out shirtless, whether for like views or just because it's warm. So I probably follow a few because of that, but again, it is what it is. Like if that's what it's the same thing with like the hot tub streamers. If that's what people are willing to watch and that's what people want to spend their money on, and again, you're not breaking any laws or hurting anybody, like if that's the content you want to make, fine. It does kind of blow my mind that that's like there are people who can put hours and hours of time into like getting into drag and planning their content so meticulously. And then there are other people who can literally just like inflate a pool and put it in their living room and sit in it and they just have the views roll in. I can see how that's frustrating. Hell yeah, that's frustrating. But, you know, here we are. Here we are. So, besides the streamies, I don't know if I'll necessarily be tuning in next year. Unless maybe there's somebody I know who gets nominated. That would be nice. That would be nice. All right, let's talk about this strike. Let's talk about this strike, honey. So as I would assume many of you know, SAG-AFTRA, which is the kind of preeminent union for actors and entertainers, is currently on strike in the midst of negotiations with some of the major like streaming platforms. Streaming platforms meaning places like Netflix, Amazon Prime, places where you would stream your shows and movies that you like, not stream as in like Twitch, Kick, etc. The contract that SAG-AFTRA has with many gaming companies is also currently up for negotiation. So as it stands right now, SAG-AFTRA is striking against video streaming platforms like Netflix, Hulu, etc. for better terms for their actors. They also have a contract that's up and up for negotiation right now with several companies in the gaming space, in the gaming industry, predominantly for things like voiceover work and associated stuff. So like, for example, Disney is one of the companies implicated because there are games that utilize Disney talent and Disney characters in them. So things like Kingdom Hearts. The thing is, if this goes to a strike, so right now where we're at is that the executive board of SAG-AFTRA has authorized a vote to the larger SAG-AFTRA membership whether or not to authorize a strike. So even if they vote yes, that doesn't necessarily initiate a strike. That just gives the SAG-AFTRA leadership permission to start a strike if they see fit, if they need to, in order to get these negotiations kind of unstuck. Odds are pretty good that they're going to approve it. There's no indication that they wouldn't. Voice actors do get paid very little, and especially now that we're seeing this kind of quick uptick in usage of things like AI. When we're talking about things like voiceover, or motion cap is the other one, motion capture. So folks who wear like the big lime green suits and you do the motion capture stuff for game characters. Things like stunt doubles and things like that. AI would allow us to take one person's performance, one person's voice, and just use it over and over and over again without their permission and without paying them. And so at the core of these contracts are things like that, where folks are pushing back against the idea that these companies and production houses can use their likeness, their voice, their work to train AI to do what they do so they don't have to get hired again. So that's what it comes down to. It's as much as a lot of these companies will make it about greed. It is about greed, but not on the part of the actors. It's they're literally trying to keep their profession alive in the face of this AI stuff. So it is very Black Mirror. Yes, very much so. So what I did, because I was very curious, this took me down a rabbit hole that I was not prepared for. I looked up all of the companies that they listed. So this is maybe not an exhaustive list, but this is all of the companies that were listed in the like press release that SAG-AFTRA. The president, this is also interesting, the president of SAG-AFTRA is Fran Drescher. So those of us who are millennials, if you remember The Nanny, it's very strange to see her like ranting and raving against Netflix. It's The Nanny. She's the president of SAG-AFTRA. So she released this like press release listing all of these companies that they are asking for permission to be able to initiate a strike against. So they include Activision, includes a company called Blindlight LLC, Disney Character Voices, EA, Epic Games, Formosa Interactive, Insomniac Games, Take-Two, VoiceWorks, and WB Games. So we're going to go through each of them, because what I did was I went through and tried to find like what are the games that each of these companies worked on, so that if and when a strike does occur, the presumption would be that we as content creators would be asked not to support struck works. Meaning I can't or shouldn't, no one's going to come through and like physically stop me, but I should avoid streaming or promoting the games that these companies have worked on. For someone like me, this could be a big problem because most of the games that I play are on this list. I am mostly an Overwatch streamer. Overwatch is on this list. Fortnite is on this list. Several other of the games that we play are on this list. So I might become a temporary just chatting streamer for a hot minute. Or those little indie horror games that I like to play might become my primary content. So for those of us who stream, this is something to keep an eye on, especially if you are someone who wants to support the union in their efforts. So there are plenty of people who are going to stream this stuff anyway. It does disqualify you from membership in SAG-AFTRA, so if that's something you ever see for yourself, you should pay attention. But it's also just the right thing to do. Don't cross the picket line. That's a pretty easy thing for most of us to do. So, hi, Heron. Thank you for the alert. Heron, we're looking so cute in your Instagram stories today. They're creeping. And the dog, of course. Always love the dog. Come on, Minecraft. Maybe so. Maybe so. Maybe we like recreate the Overwatch maps in Minecraft. So let's start at the very top. Activision Productions. So that would of course include Activision, Blizzard, and King. Those are the three kind of brands under the Activision Blizzard umbrella. So things like Diablo, Overwatch, Call of Duty, World of Warcraft, Crash Bandicoot, Spyro, the Tony Hawk games, Guitar Hero, and then King is the company behind games like Candy Crush. King is mostly mobile games. So for folks who maybe stream or create content around those games, you would not be able to promote those. I'm shocked that they'd ask people to stop streaming. Are you being sarcastic, Razor? Why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't they? If they're striking against those companies, why would we promote those companies? Some people will use this as an opportunity to stream content that few people... Exactly. That's what we're seeing with influencers around video streaming, there are people who are kind of taking advantage of the fact that there are some folks who won't touch some of these contracts and some of these brands to like further that. But those are going to be folks who, if they ever get to a point where they are eligible for membership in SAG-AFTRA, that's going to be something that bites them in the butt eventually. Thanks for stopping in, Doxy. Have fun with your Pokemon. Because I'm confused how would that move the needle for the companies? We wouldn't be helping promote spending money on them. Particularly when we're talking about games that haven't come out yet. So one example, I'll scroll down. There's one game, which company was it? It's the Spider-Man one. Insomniac Games has worked on a couple. So these aren't all necessarily developers. So these aren't necessarily the companies that make the games, although in some cases they are, but they work on them. So I think, for example, Insomniac, Formosa, and then the other one was Blindlight. These are people who like work on the technical aspects of some of the games. So things like the voiceover talent, recording, production, direction, and stuff like that. So they're not necessarily game developers, but they're people who work on the games anyway. So Insomniac works on games like Ratchet and Clank and Marvel Spider-Man. This could impact Spider-Man 2. So Marvel Spider-Man 2 is set to release on October 20th on the PlayStation 5. So by not supporting those games, you're then stunting the launches of any games they have coming out as well. Or like if there's a new Overwatch chapter. Those are all things that creators help hype up. Creators are the people who help convince people to spend money on these games. So it's maybe a little bit less direct than what we're seeing on the kind of TV and movie side of things, but it's still the same concept. Do I think like I'm moving the needle personally? Probably not. There probably aren't that many people who've spent a ton of money on Overwatch because of me. But if all of us collectively pledge to stand by the union and not promote it, that would make a difference. Think of how many people, like if you look at media outlets in particular, gauge like success of a game by things like how many Twitch viewers it has. How many times do we see like Dexerto or some of these other, maybe Dexerto's not the best like example, but where they pull up like the browse tab on Twitch and show which games have the most viewers, and they use that to point out like, oh, this game's really successful. I've done it. I did it to poke fun at Hogwarts because it had no viewers. There were people playing like random mobile games that had more viewers than Hogwarts. Those are things that we can make an impact on that might help put some more pressure, or at least not give these companies something to point at to say like, well, what you're doing isn't working. Your strike isn't having an effect. People are still playing our game. People are still spending money on our games, whether or not you're agreeing to work on them. So it's kind of like a name and shame sort of thing. Oh, gotcha, Doxy. That makes sense. Yeah. Is Baldur's Gate 3 on the list? Not as far as I know. So to be clear too, there's no like master list of all of the games. I literally just went and Googled all the companies and listed some of the games that they worked on. So your best bet is to just Google the names of the companies and go from there if there's like a specific game that you're concerned about. Because again, some of these aren't necessarily the people who made the game. They might have like helped with some of the voiceover work or some of the audio editing or Foley artistry, which is like sound effects. So the people who like play with coconut shells to make horse sounds, those are Foley artists. So they might not necessarily be like front and center when you're looking at the game or the companies that are part of it. Just something to keep in mind. So again, Activision is one of them. Any Activision, Blizzard, or King title would be theoretically, and again, we still have to see. So there is no strike currently. Even if they vote yes, that doesn't necessarily initiate a strike. That just gives the executive board permission to do so if they need to. And at that time, I assume we will get some guidelines from the union as to what should folks do or not do if they want to be supportive. So for example, there's a link, I got it right here because I am so prepared. There is a link that they've got currently for influencers who are trying to be supportive of the strike that's currently active. I assume we'll probably get something similar if and when a strike is initiated against these gaming companies. So the next one is Blindlight LLC. So they do things like casting and voice production. They do a lot of work with like celebrity deals. So a lot of the content and things that they've worked on are things where you're using Hollywood talent in the gaming industry. So people who aren't necessarily like gaming first or gaming forward creators um, doing work in the gaming space. So some of the games that they partner on, and this is one that has a lot. So if you go to their website, they have a list of all the games that they've worked on. It's way more than what I'm sharing here, but just some of the titles that were more familiar to me. Redfall, Rumbleverse, which y'all know I loved Rumbleverse. It was so fun. The Life is Strange series, Deathloop, Marvel Avengers, Maneater. Maneater is that game where you play a shark. Everybody in the world was playing that game for like a solid couple weeks when it first came out. Horizon Zero Dawn, the Evil Within series, the Destiny series, Destiny 2, and again, many others are part of the kind of portfolio that company has. Not that wheel. You're having a rough night with Twitch. The next company is Disney Character Voices, and as the name implies, this is mostly titles that either exclusively partner with Disney or have like Disney characters present. So games like the Kingdom Hearts series, Disney Dreamlight Valley, of course, and the Super Smash Brothers series all have Disney property or Disney voices used. So those games would presumably be covered or impacted in the event of a strike. The next one is EA. Huge company. And again, another company that has tons of games. Pretty much any like major popular sports game probably runs through either EA or 2K. Both of them are affected by this potential strike. So if you're someone who plays any of the like major like NFL, NBA, PGA, etc. Sports type games, you are probably impacted by any potential strike. So EA includes things like Apex Legends, the Madden series of games, The Sims, EA Sports FC, which used to be known as the FIFA soccer games, the Battlefield series, the Star Wars games, so like Jedi Survivor, Fallen Order, etc., the Dead Space games, Dragon Age, Titanfall, Need for Speed, Mass Effect. So a lot of pretty big, pretty major gaming franchises and series would be covered. And again, many more. So if there's a specific game that you're wondering is covered or is not covered, please look it up, because by no means is this like the all-inclusive list. Apex would be a no-go, exactly. The next company is Epic Games. So this one I'm a little unclear on. I'm not like a lawyer and I'm not someone who works in the gaming industry, so I'm not sure to what extent some of these are covered. But the games that Epic is responsible for include Fall Guys, Fortnite, Rocket League, and Infinity Blade. What I'm not as sure of, and this I would hope would be addressed if there were a strike initiated, is that Epic Games is also responsible for Unreal Engine. So Unreal Engine is a series of tools, engines that folks use to create other games. So people build games on a platform built and maintained by Epic Games. So I'm not sure if a game is not necessarily created or one of these companies didn't necessarily work on it, but it was built on Unreal Engine. I'm not sure if that game would be covered or included in a strike. Like if I built a game on Unreal Engine, but I don't work for any of these companies, I didn't use any of these companies, but I built a game on Unreal Engine, I'm not sure if that would be considered struck content or not. If it is, that makes things infinitely more complicated. Exactly, Cletus. So many games are built on Unreal Engine right now. I'm not sure what the like details there are. I would assume you probably pay for Unreal Engine. And so in my mind, the logic at least would be, if I support this game, I'm helping them pay Unreal Engine, which then puts money into Epic Games' pockets. So in my mind, it would make sense if the answer is, yes, that is struck content and you should not be playing those games. But that also requires a lot more legwork on the part of the player, because I can't tell you which games I play were built on Unreal Engine. So it would take a lot more work on the part of creators to be doing their due diligence to figure out where the games that they are playing come from. Because that's not always as obvious as some of these other things are. So that's, I think, an interesting nuance. And again, I think that's one of the questions that a lot of folks will have if, and again, when this strike happens. It would only matter if they bought UE for that game. Well, That's a matter of opinion, though. And who knows the answer to those questions for each individual game? Like, so we'll have to see. We'll have to see. Again, I think that's a good question for if and when it happens. The next company is Formosa. So this is sound art and technical services, including concept art, 3D art for games, art direction, sound design. They do some work with voiceover artists, Foley, and then like audio and art direction. So this is sort of like a creative agency, creative services agency that partners with game developers. Some doozies in this one too. So some of the games they work on are God of War. I don't know, Cletus. That's my point. That's my point, is that I don't know enough about this, and it's not my job to like make that distinction. But it's something that would be important, I think, to consider. So again, some of the games that Formosa works on are God of War, Call of Duty's on this as well, League of Legends, The Last of Us, Halo, Death Stranding, The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild, and even Microsoft Flight Simulator. No go. No go. So, and again, there are other games as well. Those are just some of the ones that I thought were more recognizable or more popular. For Insomniac games, we kind of talked about that earlier. Games like Ratchet and Clank, Marvel Spider-Man, and Spider-Man 2. And again, the caveat there being Spider-Man 2 is set to release late October 20th. So hypothetically, a strike could have a pretty significant impact on that launch. It does look like it's only launching on PlayStation, so it might not have as much of an impact as a wider release would, but still something to consider. The next company is Take-Two, and a caveat here is the company that's listed in the press release is Take-Two Productions. When I looked that company up, there's no gaming company under that specific name. There are a bunch of like theater companies using that name. I think they're talking about Take-Two Interactive, but it's not spelled the same way. So I could be wrong here. And again, I'm not a lawyer and I don't claim to be. So like the press release lists Take-Two and uses the digit number 2. Take-Two Interactive spells the word 2 out. And so my guess, I believe, is that they're talking about Take-Two Interactive because that's the only gaming company I can think of, or gaming adjacent company I could find using that name, but I could be wrong. But I don't think I am. So if I'm right, Take-Two includes Rockstar Games, it includes 2K, it includes Zynga, and then another branch called Private Division. So Rockstar Games would include things like Grand Theft Auto, Red Dead Redemption, and the Max Payne series. So I know we have a lot of folks, I know a lot of folks who play like GTA or RP would be affected by something like this. 2K, again, a lot of sports games. So like the WWE games are 2K, NBA is 2K. There's a whole series of like Lego sports games through 2K. Borderlands is a 2K game, including Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, BioShock, Civilization, Mafia, and then The Quarry, which was a horror game that was recently released. The one that had Brenda Song in it. Is also a 2K game. Zynga would, I think, impact less of us. Zynga is... I forgot Zynga was still a thing. Zynga is responsible for a lot of mobile games and the games that you see on Facebook. So if y'all remember Farmville, Farmville is a Zynga game. So my mom is going to be very upset that Farmville would be considered struck material should a strike commence. Some of the other ones are like Words with Friends, if you might remember. That one was really popular for a while. Merge Dragons. I've never played... Merge Dragons and Toon Blast are the other two I have listed here. I've never played either of those games, but I get ads for them all the time. So again, a lot of mobile games, a lot of Facebook games. Not something I think a lot of people are streaming, but something to know about all the same. Moms love Farmville. I will say I can't bitch about it though, because you know, my mom, years ago, this was when Born This Way was released. The Born This Way album was released. My mom got me access to Electric Chapel early because she unlocked some chest or crate thing. There was some Lady Gaga collab with Farmville, and my mom, she got me a free download of Electric Chapel like a month before it came out. I was So into that. So I can't really make fun of her, but she can't stream it if they go on strike. Farmville is apparently still a thing. I think it's Farmville 2 now. If that says anything. But yeah, so Zynga games would be affected. Private Division is a company. They've got some. I think they work mostly with kind of indie titles. The two ones that I had heard of were Hades, which we streamed once, I think, with Jared here, and then the Outer Worlds series. There's like 4 or 5 different Outer Worlds games that would also hypothetically be impacted. Played Farmville like 6 to 8 hours a day. I think I must have played it at some point too. I'm sure my mom roped me into it, but not lately. I'd be interested to see like how many people are still playing those. I didn't even know that Facebook still had games, because I don't get the invites anymore. I used to get invites all the time. My mom plays like this Mafia one, where she's like a weed boss, and she would send me all these invites to like water her plants and shit. I don't get them anymore, so I just assume those games don't exist anymore, but apparently they do, or at least some of them do. Anyway, the next company is VoiceWorks Productions. So voiceover work, casting, directing, production. They specialize in like animated TV and film. So a lot of their the games that they've worked on are games where they're either bringing characters or taking the world from like an existing property and bringing it into the gaming space. So Saints Row is one of them. Destroy All Humans is another one. Dota 2, and then like the SpongeBob game. So like the was it Escape from Bikini Bottom? That would be covered under this. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles video games also would be covered. That one, Steven, that we played that like didn't work very well for us, the Nickelodeon one, that one would be covered under this as well. Farmville 2 and 3. Oh, I stand corrected. Yeah, it looks like a lot of the games that they make are like crossovers, so you can play them on Facebook or mobile. I used to work for a company that ran a bingo game on Facebook, $15 an hour, and that was about 8 years ago. Oh, love that. If y'all find any remote jobs that are hiring in the state of Maine, perhaps send them my way. Not sponsored. Yeah, so that game, the Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl, that's what it was called, would also be covered, although I hear that they've fixed it. We'll see. Or maybe we won't. And then the last company listed on here, and we're taking way longer to get through this. Note for myself for next week, trim down the list of topics we want to talk about, because this is taking forever, honey. WB Games. WB Games, which would include Mortal Kombat, including the new Mortal Kombat 1. Back for Blood is a WB game. Multiverses, which we actually really loved, is a WB game. A lot of Lego games. Injustice, which is another kind of like fighting game in the same vein as like a Mortal Kombat. A lot of Batman games, and there's also a whole series of games called Middle Earth, based on the Lord of the Rings property, that would be affected. And then, of course, Hogwarts Legacy as well. Although I think most of the people who stream Hogwarts Legacy probably won't let a strike stop them from doing so. Call it a hunch, but call it a hunch. So those are, in my understanding, some of the games, not all of them, but some of the biggest, most prominent games that would be impacted if this does end up going to a full strike, and if that strike has similar terms to the one that's already active against some of these streaming platforms. So prepare. Which of these games do I play? So Overwatch, obviously. I have Call of Duty, but I haven't played it in a hot minute. I have Spyro, and I was planning on streaming Spyro at some point. I've played Warcraft, didn't really love it. Rumbleverse we've played. I think I have Maneater, but I haven't played it. I think I have Smash Bros on my Switch. We've played Disney Dreamlight Valley. I've played Apex. We played Madden. We did play Madden. Dragon Age, Fall Guys, Fortnite. I have Rocket League, but I haven't played it in a hot minute. So a lot of these games are games that I have or do play. I wonder what will happen with like ALJ. Well, I guess it depends on whether or not they're going to support the union. I mean, it really comes down to like an individual decision, person to person or organization to organization. I would imagine they would at least have some folks who would refuse to play if they still move forward with it, because they would personally not want to support it. So yeah, that's my like quick one down of the strike, and we'll keep our eye on that. So that might be something that we'll talk about next week or the week after as things kind of continue to develop. I'm not sure what the time frame for something like this is. So when something gets sent out to the membership, I don't know how long it takes for them to hold a vote. I don't know how long it takes for them to have the results of that vote. And then if the answer is yes, you're authorized, I don't know how long it might take before we see a strike implemented. So lots of TBD in this particular topic. You have a tough question for me or for them? Okay, I'm listening. But then we need to move on because I've got literally 2 more sections left and we've been going for almost 2 hours already. This was not supposed to be a 2-hour show. So maybe I will limit myself to 1 topic per section moving forward. But yes, what's your question? If the strike affects a game, but someone you know gets a great opportunity with that game because of it, would I support them? No. Because they're probably getting that opportunity because other people, not to say that my friends aren't capable of getting great opportunities on their own, but the odds are part of why they have that opportunity is because other people have said no because of the strike. ALGS for yeah, I wouldn't support that. Would I like disown them and never talk to them again? Probably not. But I wouldn't support crossing the picket line. In my understanding, typically what would happen is if you had this opportunity before the strike began, so like if I had a contract to do a sponsored stream for Overwatch or something that was signed before the strike began, I would be able to do that work because I've already got a contract for it, but I wouldn't be able to sign any additional contracts. I wouldn't be able to pick up any additional work after the strike begins. So like there are some influencers, for example, or people who worked on TV shows or movies who are still promoting them, but it's because they have contractual obligations that began before the strike started. But they're not picking up any additional work in that space until the strike is over. Her friend, but she probably wouldn't take it. Yeah, I think it just feels, I mean, as hard as I'm sure it would be to turn something like that down, because how often do opportunities like that come up? It's like, do you want to be that person who took an opportunity because other people were turning it down for that reason? Like, what opportunities are you disqualifying yourself from by not standing in solidarity with folks in this union? That would be my thing. Like, I would second guess like collaborating with creators who break that. Because ultimately, like, is it a pain in the butt to do? Would it be really hard for me to stream and not play Overwatch? Yeah. But it's also not a huge ask. Like, they're not asking us to go out and stand on a picket line with them. They're not asking us to go on strike and not get paid while we try to get fair terms for them. They're literally just asking us not to stream those games. They're not even saying you can't play them. So I'm pretty sure you would still be able to play Overwatch. You just wouldn't be able to stream it. You wouldn't be able to promote it. So I feel like it's not a huge ask given what's at stake for the folks who are asking, if that makes sense. But again, none of this has actually happened yet, so we might not have a strike. Who knows? Maybe they'll get a great contract without having to go on strike. History shows that's probably not the case, but maybe. Maybe. So I guess we'll see. But I will be keeping an eye on it. I want you all to help me keep an eye on it too. So another thing I would love to be able to see, and I'll create a channel in our Discord for this, I don't want to be the only one pulling topics and things for this little chat. So if you all find things, or if you see updates on some of the things that we've talked about here on the Onedown before, please share them with us in the Discord. I'll be happy to pass those along so that we can all do better at staying up to date on this stuff. The world moves super friggin' fast. And that's one of the reasons that I wanted to do this. Was I think that sometimes having someone who just kind of sit you down and say, these are the things that are happening right now, can be helpful, because otherwise we may not see them or know about them. And so I don't want to be the only one guiding that or directing that. But moving on, let's talk about some queer shit. We're going to speed run. We've got queer shit, and then we've got Miss Pop Culture. So I'm going to skip the drag ban. Basically, the bill that banned, there was a bill in Texas that passed and it was signed by the governor that would make, the way that it was worded was super vague, but the purpose was to keep drag shows out of public spaces or any space where a child might see it. But it was very vague. There weren't just definitions for a lot of the terms, so it was left very open to interpretation and could have been utilized in a very broad way. A federal judge, it was supposed to take effect on September 1st, yesterday. A federal judge put a temporary halt, a temporary restraining order on it, preventing it from going into effect on the grounds that he found there was sufficient evidence that proved folks would suffer irreparable harm if he didn't stop it. So that's the language that he used is very promising. So basically the way it works is it's a temporary pause while he does a little more thinking and research and decides and issues his like final ruling. But the language that he's using, the fact that he used a temporary restraining order, shows that he sees the plaintiffs, meaning there are some drag artists and the ACLU who brought this case to the courts. He sees sufficient evidence in what they've shared with him that this is going to harm people. Enough that he felt the need to stop it. So there's a lot of hope that he will, when he releases his final ruling, he will stop this bill from going into effect permanently, which would be great. And that would also be in line with what we've seen in a couple other states. I think Tennessee had something similar happen where a judge said, this violates the First Amendment, you can't do that. So good news there, very exciting, very promising. And again, we will keep a finger on the pulse there to see how it pans out. Second, there were 2 men in Uganda who will become the first to face the death penalty under the new anti-homosexuality law there. Uganda has the strictest homosexuality law in the world. Actually, Uganda got rid of the death penalty about, I think, 15 years ago and brought it back for this bill. So homosexuality is now one of the only things you can actually be charged and face the death penalty for in Uganda. And similarly, this is a bill that's super vague, so there are no definitions for a lot of the terms. So for example, this bill criminalizes promoting homosexuality, but it doesn't define what promoting homosexuality is. So the impact that's having is that a lot of, for example, news outlets in Uganda aren't covering these cases and letting folks know what's happening because they're afraid that it could be interpreted as promoting homosexuality, even if they're just sharing the facts of the cases and what's happening. The terms of the cases and the specifics and details are a little bit cloudy and shady too, again, because folks are afraid to cover them. But from what I can gather, one of them is a case where someone is accused of a sexual act with someone under 18, someone who was 12. And the other one was someone who had who engaged in an unlawful sexual act with someone who has a disability. So this anti-homosexuality law also criminalizes engaging in sexual activity with people who have disabilities. Problem here is that none of the people who are involved identified themselves as LGBT or admit that the act ever even actually happened. So there's a lot of doubt and suspicion of whether or not there's even any proof that these things happened. And again, because it's kind of a like shady situation in general, there's concern that people aren't going to get a fair shake anyway, because anybody who advocates for these folks or sticks up for them could be charged as promoting homosexuality. So there's going to be a long lead time on this. Estimates are that it's going to take between 3 and 4 years for these cases to be heard, since they are death penalty cases. So we might actually have to wait a long time before we hear a whole lot on this. But bear in mind that while we're waiting to hear about it, these 2 men are in jail in Uganda. So not a good situation. And I think this is a good opportunity to remind folks of the work that, let me see if I have the command still. Maybe. The work that Rainbow Railroad does. If you're new here, I'm a Rainbow Railroad ambassador. Rainbow Railroad is a nonprofit organization based in Canada, but operates in Canada and the US and around the world, that helps LGBTQ plus folks escape places where they are not safe due to the risk of state-sponsored or state-sanctioned violence, and help them relocate to places where they can be safe to live openly and authentically. It is very expensive work. They are getting tons of requests from places like Uganda right now. Not exclusively, though. They get a lot of requests from Uganda, from Afghanistan. There are requests even from places like the United States. It's not exactly super safe to be queer or particularly a trans person in the United States, in a lot of the United States right now. And Rainbow Railroad works internationally, but also on the ground with organizations in each of these places to either provide support to the folks who are there or to help them relocate and get out of this unsafe situation to a place where it's safer for them. Typically, they relocate folks to Canada or the US, but it's circumstantial, and it depends on the circumstances that person finds themselves in. Sometimes they provide financial support so that person can get themselves out. Sometimes it's a much more coordinated effort, but it's always a very expensive effort. It's not easy to get these folks out of these places. So please feel free to go check out Rainbow Railroad and support the work that they do. I think we'll be doing another fundraiser for them around the end of the year. Their two kind of big fundraising times are end of year, which is always a big fundraising moment for nonprofits, and then Pride Month as well. So we will talk more about Rainbow Railroad. But if you are not familiar with the work they do, or if you want to get involved and help with the work that they do, please check out rainbowrailroad.org. It's an amazing organization, and obviously there's a huge need in Uganda and elsewhere. The last kind of sports thing, and I'll rush through this one as well, is August 31st was Pride Night at the US Open. It's the US Open tennis tournament. So I wanted to know if there were any queer players, because I'm not familiar with any, not really that many openly queer athletes in general, but not particularly in the tennis space. So what I've learned is that on the men's side, in the men's professional tour, there is not now, nor has there ever been, a known openly queer player. Does that mean there have been no queer players? Of course not. But in terms of people who have announced it, there has been no current player who came out as queer on the men's tour. There was one man who came out, but it was 10 years after he retired. So he was not openly queer during his time on the tour. Now on the women's side, though, oh honey, we love our stereotypes, and sometimes they're true. There are several. So there are, I think, 6 or 7 openly queer women's players on the women's tennis tournament. So as far as the US Open goes, we only got one left. The 13th ranked player is a woman named Daria Kosetkina from Russia, although she does not participate under the Russian flag because Russia is currently banned from a lot of international competitions. So she competes as just an individual with no specific country flag attached to her. She's also been really outspoken against Russia, both against what they're doing in the Ukraine, but also the way that they treat LGBTQ plus folks. She actually has been quoted as saying that she doesn't feel safe going back to Russia because she is openly queer and has been very outspoken about the regime and what they're doing. So she doesn't feel safe going back to Russia. She is the lone queer person left in the tournament, as far as I can tell. That said, there are a lot of people. I don't know if y'all know how these tennis tournaments work, but they have a men's tournament, a women's tournament, a men's doubles, women's doubles, mixed doubles. There's a boys tournament, a girls tournament. Most of them have a wheelchair tennis tournament and more. So I did not go through and look up every single person in every single tournament. However, from all the resources I could find, none of the other queer players are still on the tournament. Kosetkina actually played another queer person today and eliminated her. She played a player named Greet Minin from Belgium, and she beat her. And Greet was the person who actually beat Venus Williams. She played Venus Williams in the first round and eliminated her. So Daria is our last hope for a queer champion. She's ranked number 13, which is pretty good. They start with, I think, 128. So to be 13th out of that many, that's pretty good. So if you're looking for someone to root for, we love Coco Gauff. I don't know if y'all saw what happened with her. She's fierce. She's an American player. Or Daria Kosetkina, if you want a queer winner. So those are our last hopes. There was another player who was in the doubles competition, a Dutch player named Demi. I think her last name is Schurz. I'm probably butchering that. She lost her match today. She was ranked number 4 in the doubles tournament, but they lost. So Daria Kosetkina, remember the name. She's our last hope for a queer winner. of this tournament. I also, as a sidebar, and I will move on after this, I, again, don't like to feed into stereotypes, but one thing I did notice when I was researching all these queer players on the women's tournament is that many of them, not all of them, many of them have either have dated each other in the past or are currently dating each other. And the wheel goes round and round. There are two of them that are like engaged, but one of them was engaged to another player before, and now that person's dating somebody else who's also this first person's ex. Very tangled web, very rural. If you've ever been to like rural Maine, very much that kind of lesbian scene where it's like everybody knows each other and they've all dated at one point or another. Very that, but on a global scale. I thought that was interesting. The last thing I want to talk about before we get to our goon of the week, I want to talk about Miss Nunuri. I am so fascinated by this. I don't know if y'all have seen this. I don't remember how I even found it. I think I just kind of stumbled across it. So Warner Music Central Europe has offered a contract to this digital character named Nunuri. She is entirely fabricated. She is not made up after any individual person. She does not like an avatar for a real person. She is entirely the creation of scientists or engineers, whatever. She doesn't physically exist. But she does have this huge platform. She's got a ton of followers on Instagram. She's a signed model. She's signed to IMG Model Management. She has partnered and been in like campaigns with many famous people, including Kim Kardashian. And now she's a singer. She's got her own song. And we're going to watch the music video. This is so wild to me. So they used AI to create her voice. So it's based on a real singer's voice. They had a real singer like record for this, but then they used AI to alter it so that it's distinct. She has her own distinct sound. She does not sound like this other person. She has her own distinct voice that's just built off of this other. I don't understand how it all works, but that's what they're telling us. She has her debut single. It came out. It's got a music video. It's called Dominoes. I'm going to be honest. It's actually a little bit catchy. And she worked with this guy who's a German DJ named Ali Farben. Everybody's getting royalties. So even though it's an AI thing, the people who helped write the song and produce it will still get royalties just like any other song. I'm not sure who gets the money or royalties for what Nunuri does. That was one thing I wasn't really able to find anywhere, was like who owns this like brand around her, because obviously she's not a real person and somebody created her, so presumably there's someone who owns, I hate to say like someone owns her, but she's not a person, so someone's making a lot of money off of her, but I'm not sure who. It seems like a lot of people are actually. She has a huge Instagram following. Let's go and pull that up. It's wild. If it weren't for the fact that it's very clearly not a real person, she looks like a weird Bratz doll, you would think that this is a real person. Like the way that they just put her in like these pictures. She's got pictures with like famous people. So La Roche, Kim Kardashian, Kendall Jenner, Patrick Starr, Marc Jacobs, Gigi Hadid, Zendaya, Becky G. It's wild. This is like they created this entire person. BB Rexa, David Guetta, like it is a lot. And again, she's like a signed model, so IMG models. And now she's got a recording contract too. 403,000 followers. Followed by Aquaria and Billy Porter. It's wild to me. And it makes me nervous as hell. Like if I were a musician, I would be very nervous seeing this, because it feels like this is the start of something, not like an isolated case. That said, I do want to watch the music video with you all. It's a lot. It's only like 3 minutes long, but we're going to watch it together. Here we go. It does feature, I'm not sure which of the outfits that she's wearing in this video, but apparently it's like sponsored by Kim Kardashian's like shapewear line. And so some of the outfits she's wearing in this video are technically Skims, even though they're not physical garments. I don't know. I don't know anymore. But let's watch this video. It's probably gonna give me an ad. Oh. Why is it doing this? I just want to watch it full screen. What's happening? Oh, I don't like that. Here we go. Let me pop an earbud in. That's a weird face to start on, but okay. There it is. Not Carrie Underwood. Not Carrie Underwood. So that's it. That's Nonori. It's called Dominoes. It's not bad. I was hoping it would be bad. I was hoping it would be bad. Not Jessie J. Yeah, it's giving very like gasified brat style Jessie J. So yeah, there it is. There it is. There she is. You can be what you want to be. Even if what you want to be is not a real thing. Girl, I don't know. So, I don't know. Go stream Dominoes. I also hope that I don't get like a copyright strike for this. That would be my luck. Watch me get like taken off the internet by fucking Nonori. I can't. I cannot. Okay. Let's get to our goon of the week, shall we? You may be able to predict. Not the ad for Unreal Engine. Not the ad for Unreal Engine. That felt targeted. That felt targeted. Google, stop listening to me. So our good. Oh wait, I have a screen for this. I have a screen for this. Are you ready? Our goon of the week is Mitch McConnell. It's Mitch McConnell. We're gonna have a little chit chat about this too, though, because I do have some thoughts I want to share, and I have a captive audience, so you're gonna hear them. So if you're not familiar, Mitch McConnell twice now in recent weeks has just completely frozen, seemingly like mid-sentence. So he was just talking and then was asked a question, and rather than answering that question, seemingly just like totally zoned out and like left us for a minute. There are folks who've like talked to doctors about this, like what could this possibly be? And generally speaking, it seems like there are concerns that there's some sort of neurological something going on, maybe dementia. So let's just watch it. It's like a quick video. This time it was very strange because he had an aide come over, and it was just a very awkward. I'm glad I wasn't in that room because I'm not really sure what I would have done if I were here for this.
Another troubling incident for Mitch McConnell.
What are your thoughts on running for re-election in 2026?
What are my thoughts about what?
Running for re-election in 2026.
That's
Then the 81-year-old Senate minority leader stood silent. An aide steps in.
Did you hear the question, Senator? Running for re-election in 2026?
yes.
Still just a blank expression.
All right, I'm sorry, you all. We're going to need a minute. Senator Benny.
A member of his security detail comes forward.
I'm gonna head outside, so come with us. Okay.
Somebody else have a question? Please speak up.
Last month, McConnell froze for 23 seconds before being escorted away. He returned shortly after, telling reporters, "I'm fine."
Senator.
Now, another freeze. We spoke to neurologist Dr. Leah Kroll.
Certainly, it's clear that a neurologic event of some kind happened, and for it to happen more than once is worrisome.
President Biden was asked about the McConnell incident today.
He's a good friend, and so I'm going to try to get in touch with him later this afternoon.
So, also, I hate this little thing that popped up. Slushy seeking little girl takes bus by herself at 3 a.m. That's so clickbaity. So here's the thing. Also, hi, cool. Welcome in. Yeah, Joe Biden, kiss my ass. He's such like, and I get that this is why a lot of people voted for Joe Biden. Like, he's very much the like, we're all friends even though we have differences. Fuck that. But here's my thing. I have some issues with the way people are talking about this, and I see where folks are coming from at the same time. So one, Mitch McConnell is a terrible person. Period. He has done terrible things. He has allowed terrible things to happen to other people and not stopped them. And he's a shitty person. I am by no means trying to defend him specifically. And he also has access to some of the best healthcare available. And whatever is happening, whatever is going on, he will be able to access the care he needs. That will not be an issue. That is something he has denied millions of other people. And there's a lot of conversation going on right now that is ableist, that is getting into some like ageism. People saying, oh, no one this old should be able to be in office. Age in and of itself doesn't disqualify someone from office. There are plenty of people who are 70, 80, 90, 100 years old, sharp as a tack, perfectly capable of making sound judgment decisions, etc. It is not his age that is cause for concern. Again, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a lawyer, but I will say the very first job I ever had, I worked in a nursing home with Alzheimer's patients. And what he's exhibiting looks a lot like what I would see with the residents that I worked with, where they just like lose track of what was going on and what was being said. Like they just factory reset. Uncle, thank you for the lurk. I appreciate it. Welcome in. So again, not trying to diagnose him. It's clear there is something going on. And I think we need to be careful how we talk about this because, like I said, he's a shitty person. I wish he would step down for a million reasons. But there are also plenty of other people with similar conditions who are hearing and seeing the way people are talking about them right now. And we've just got to be better. We've just got to choose our words better and not get lazy by just categorically saying all old people should step down. We're seeing similar energy, to take it in case there happen to be any conservatives in the audience. Dianne Feinstein's another example. She's the senior senator, literally senior senator from California. She just spent several months out of work because she had shingles. And there was a lot of pressure on her, she's a Democrat, from other Democrats to step down because her not being present to vote was preventing a lot of judicial appointments from going through. It's a super tight vote in the Senate. It's right down the middle. And so they need every vote they can get. And so there were a lot of folks who were telling her to step down so they could fill her seat with someone else who would actually be there to vote, and she refused. She's back at work now, and there have been some moments where she has appeared to be confused or not necessarily like present in the moment. She's getting a lot of the same attention where it's like, why are you still here? Why aren't you stepping down? Ruth Bader Ginsburg is another example where toward the end of her life, she refused to step down before Donald Trump took office. And there are a lot of folks who blame her for the fact that we have at least the conservative majority we have now is at least in part due to the fact that she refused to step down, and it was ended up being Donald Trump who chose her replacement. And again, I get where it's coming from. And I think we should be clear that when we're talking about someone's ability to do their job, it is tied specifically to their ability, not their age. We live in a society and a world that treats all old people as disabled. And while there are a lot of old folks who are disabled or who have various disabilities and conditions, it is not their age that disables them. I think older people should be, I assume you mean should not be politicians, because the decisions they make will no longer affect them. I understand where that's coming from, but here's my problem with that line of thinking is who gets to decide at what age your decisions no longer will affect you? Because then you're basically putting like a life expectancy on elected officials. And how far down does that go? Do old folks not get to run for town council, school board? So I get where that like mentality comes from, and to a certain extent, I understand and I agree. I think we have an overwhelming overrepresentation of folks of like the Boomer Gen X generation that will not necessarily reap what they sow in a lot of ways. That's also in part due to the fact that almost all of them are filthy rich. So even if they were going to be around long enough for those decisions to impact them, they wouldn't be impacted the same way. So I think it would be nearly impossible to find a line to draw in that regard that is fair. And Stephen, that was exactly where I was about to go. So I think term limits make more sense in the sense that rather than saying nobody over the age of whatever, 70, 60, whatever number someone might choose can run for office. Although I do understand too, like we have minimum ages for some, like you can't be president if you're under 35. So I see where that comes from. But I think finding a line that we could all agree on would be almost impossible, especially knowing that the people who would make that decision are largely people who are above that age. But term limits, I think, make a lot more sense. We've got a lot of senators in particular who've been sitting there for a long time. Let's investigate. How long has Mitch McConnell been a senator? Assumed office January 3rd, 1985. This man has been a senator longer than I have been alive. That's 37, 38 years. This man has been a senator. Not even just a politician, but he has been a senator for 35 years. 35 plus years. That I can get on board with. Not that, Stephen. Don't give them any ideas. Nori would be an excellent senator from the great state of Kentucky. And of course, Dominoes would be her fight song. It's all coming together. This is the grand plan. Release the single, let it pop off on TikTok, announce the run. I see it. It's all coming together. I know, I kind of want Domino's now too, except they don't deliver where I live. Yeah, term limits I could absolutely get on board with. But I don't think there's a way to do some sort of like policy where people above a certain age just can't run for office. Because again, say we draw the line at 70, I could live to be 100. And I very much would probably be impacted by many of the decisions I had made in that time. Or again, because many of them are amongst the 1% and not really impacted by most of the decisions that they make anyway, I could be 25 and not impacted by the decisions I'm making because I'm rich and I'm insulated from a lot of them. I don't have to depend on things like government, social welfare, safety nets because I'm rich enough that I'll never need them. I think it's reflective of some generational frustration for sure. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think by and large, yeah, our government is run by a bunch of old white men who are incredibly out of touch and don't care about the majority of Americans. But again, I just feel like drawing a line makes it's a dangerous thing, but also one where I feel like there's no who gets to decide where that line is? Who gets to say this is the age at which you can no longer make decisions for the country? But if you're one day younger, you can, you know? So, it's a lot. Yeah, and that gets into a lot of other stuff too around, you know, especially when like you see like the hearings in Washington around things like Facebook when Mark Zuckerberg was testifying and trying to explain how algorithms work to these people who very clearly don't get it. But again, we can't get into this business of drawing vast generalizations. I refuse to sit here and say no old person can be a senator because there's no old person in the world who possibly understands how phones work. That's just not true. I will not advocate for disqualifying people from a role based on a stereotype of their age. I don't want to be stereotyped. I don't want people passing legislation or barring me from participating. What if people started passing laws and limiting my participation in we're seeing it in work involving children because I'm a queer person and there's a stereotype about queer folks being predators. It's not true. And it's certainly much less true than some of the stereotypes around age, but we're still making the same broad strokes decisions that harm more than just the people we're trying to prevent from impacting the systems. So I also think that it's an interesting narrative around what we expect of our elected officials. I think especially as we get into federal officials, we're talking about folks in, you know, Congress and Senate and President, etc. We expect them to be experts in everything. I'm okay with it if they don't know how technology works or a particular technology works. I just want them to be smart enough to listen to the people who do. And that's the problem I have. And so that's where I think the line becomes blurry is I don't really care if Susan Collins, who's my senator, understands how TikTok works. I could care less. I want to know that she is listening to the people who do. Have the right people in the room when you're having these conversations and listen to them. And that's where I think a lot of these elected officials are falling flat on their faces. Because they will bring those officials in, they will bring those experts in, and do the exact opposite of what those folks are advising them to do. They think they know more than the people who spend their lives. We saw it all through COVID. How many places would have doctors come out and say, these are the things that we know can help prevent the spread of COVID-19? And then these legislators turn around and say, well, nope, I'm not listening to you. You're part of the deep state. You're corrupt. You're paid for. I'm a soccer mom who, before becoming a senator, literally never did anything, but I know more about medicine than this actual doctor. That's what I want to see. And I've long said that when I see like politicians campaigning and these are the things we're going to do when I become president or senator or whatever. No, they're not. You can't do anything on your own. What I want to hear is, I don't know everything, but I'm going to make sure I'm listening to the people who do. Great. I can work with that. Give me someone teachable. Give me someone who's listening, who understands that they're not going to know everything about everything. So anyway, Mitch McConnell, you're the goon of the week, baby. But also, everybody, let's check ourselves in our language around ageism, ableism, and name the specific issue. Does Mitch McConnell need to step down? Yes, because he's a shitty person, because he's a shitty senator, because he's harmed countless people through his work. Not just because he's old, not just because he may be going through some sort of neurological something. 6, thank you so much for the lurk. I appreciate it. Thank you again for the raid. Y'all, that's it. How long was that? 2.5 hours. All right. You know what? I'll take it. Not bad for our first run. Not bad for our first run. This was episode 1 of the Onedown. Tune in next week for more. And again, make sure to join the Discord and let me know what are some of the topics you want to talk about. What are some of the things going on in the world that you want to see us break down, that you want us to go through a Onedown. Yeah. I pause to give myself some time to edit the end of this video. Cute little like fade out transition, maybe, Carrie. Editing, Carrie. Something that makes me look slim. Slay.